The Exposed podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play Music, Spotify, and Podbean. Links below in the description.
You're exposed. You're exposed. You are exposed. Exposed, 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 exposed. You are exposed, sir. I'm going to expose you. Expose you. Oh my God, expose you. Exposed.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Exposed, episode 8, and I have another very special guest with me here, maybe the oldest OG of YouTube. I don't know if that makes any sense, but we'll roll with it. Ashens, who's been...
Hello.
We were just talking about how he's been doing YouTube before I even knew YouTube existed. I actually checked your channel, and your first upload was in 2006.
Yes, February 2006. It feels longer ago than it was, if that's possible.
It feels like another lifetime, man. It's just so weird that this platform has been around for as long as it's been around. Like when I look at my old videos, and I'm sure you do the same, it just doesn't even feel like the same website as it did back then.
Oh, no, the difference is night and day, isn't it? If you look on the Wayback Machine or something and see how it was set up and how everything was very, here's today's videos that got the most views and things like that. And it's, very different to today's algorithm-led YouTube.
And it was almost like your YouTube channel was a MySpace page. If someone pointed that out to me, that they were trying to copy MySpace for a while, and it's true.
Yeah. It absolutely is, with your profile. Almost surprised they didn't employ their own Tom to make friends with you. But
I remember that. Yeah, everyone was friends with Tom, and he had that one picture where he was like this. And I forgot about
whiteboard. Yes.
And then he sold that to like Fox or something like that, and now he just goes around the world taking pictures. So
that sounds nice. I could live with that.
So how? I know that Gamer from Mars actually made a video from you. How the hell have you remained as relevant on this platform because everyone usually comes and goes. Most people have, I think it's like a 2-year expiration date. It's like you age like bad milk on YouTube in most cases, and you haven't.
I certainly have, yes.
No, you haven't.
I feel like I have, my God.
But how do you still, your videos still do great. How did you do that? Like, I don't even know if people ask me that question all the time. I'm asking you. Maybe you know. What's the secret?
Sheer stubbornness, mostly. I just refuse to go away, like some sort of horrifying disease that's infected YouTube. I suppose partially I don't get bored of it because I keep changing up what I do very slightly, and I generally only do things that really interest me, which probably isn't the best way to chase big numbers or anything, but it means I don't get bored of it and I don't suddenly sort of freak out and can't do it anymore or anything. As for why people have been watching, I think that's possibly more coincidental than anything. I mean, it was always something slightly new and interesting back in the day, but now everything is so, algorithm-led and, we're not going to promote this video for let's just get this keyword in and that keyword. So pure luck at the moment, and I'm sure I'll mess it up very shortly and disappear completely. But until then, the tat must flow.
I don't think so. You've been doing this for, at least on YouTube anyway, for 14 years. I don't know. You keep on tripping into the right part of the algorithm. So
I think my videos are so weird they just can't work out how to destroy me properly. That's my guess.
How the hell do you, I've watched a billion of your videos where you eat and drink stuff that's been expired for 20, 30 years, if not more. I know people send them to you too. I think that's more amazing to me because who the hell has this stuff laying around? I get skeeved out if there's cheese in my fridge that's past the expiration date for 2 days and you're getting stuff from like the 1800s.
I hate that as well. I can't stand expired food in the fridge. There's an irony to that, but it's one of those things where it's obviously very hard to find food that's massively out of date. So that's where the sort of crowdsourcing aspect of it comes in. Whose grandmother has just moved out of her house and you cleaned her cupboards and you found this bottle of Lucasade from 1973? Perfect. If you don't want it, please pop it over to the P.O. box and I'll try a small amount of it and feel ill for about an hour.
Didn't you get where it was like olives from like the 1800s or something?
Oh, nothing's going to ever beat that. Yeah, the olives. They were about 100 years older than we thought they were as well. We had
No.
They were found in a shipwreck off the coast of Scotland.
No.
Which is the most ludicrous story. It was absolutely true. And yeah, they were just olives that had been stored in a bottle. But I mean, it was just some horrifying sludge now that was 98% bacteria, I imagine. I did not try those because...
No, I saw the video. I remember.
Yeah, that would not be good.
No, you would have been in the... What the hell does that smell like?
It was... I can't quite remember. It wasn't good, put it that way. It wasn't as bad as I was expecting, but then your mind does run away with you when you're thinking about olives that are several hundred years old and have been sitting under the sea in a rotting ship.
I mean, at that point, you're probably wondering if it was even olives at that point. It could... Who the hell knows what else seeped into the friggin' bottle?
Oh, God. Yeah, absolutely. What could have got in through the cork? I mean, it was a bottle of olives. Maybe the sailors had tipped them out and, I don't know, put all sorts of horrifying things into it. We've got no way of knowing.
What was one of the things you've tried that you were actually surprised it wasn't as horrific as you thought it would have been due to the age? Like, you were like, wow, this actually isn't that bad, and it may not kill me.
They're usually pretty bad, anything that's too over... I'm sure there's been something like that, and I can't put my finger on it now. Let me think what we've done recently. It was drinks recently. Those were pretty bad, I'll be honest with you. The 20-year-old Pepsi probably wasn't as bad as I was expecting, but still, no. Half of it had evaporated. That's not a good sign.
What I'm surprised at when I've looked at some of the food, it doesn't look bad, and then I see your reaction to it, and you're horrified, so I'm sure it tastes disgusting. But some of it, it's just amazing that now you get most of it sent to you, or is it like you actually look for it online, or is it a mixture of both? Like, what do you...
I very rarely look for it online. They're usually things people will get in touch and send something over. That's the most common. Sometimes at live events, somebody will hand me some sort of horrifying expired thing. Sometimes colleagues come up with something. We had a drink recently from us. One of the main sound engineers we work with had cleared out the grandmother's house and found some very old stuff. But yeah, it's the ones that hand them to you in person that are my favourite. They always put them in a plastic bag first, like they don't want to be contaminated.
And how long have you been doing that before, where you do the disgusting old food? Because I remember from a couple of years. Oh, yeah,
years and years now. I genuinely can't remember when it started. The first thing was somebody, when I just had a P.O. box that was open and anybody could send stuff to it because it was just sort of a generic address. Somebody just found some horribly expired jelly babies, the little jelly sweets, and thought, oh, I'll just send them to him. That'll be funny. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Let's open them on camera. And they're sort of multicoloured fruit-flavoured things, and they had all turned a very weird dark shade of brown. I did not try them. It was the first one. People were so interested in it, I thought, that was quite interesting, actually. I'd totally do that again. And then it picked up momentum very quickly, and before I knew it, people were, sending me several hundred-year-old olives from shipwrecks.
Yeah, it's so weird how, I mean, I watch it too, so I'm the same thing, how people love to see, I guess you could say, other people suffer by trying things that they would never dare try.
Proportion of YouTube, absolutely, yeah.
You know, I watch, like, I forgot the name of the other YouTuber, LA Beast, and
oh yes,
the suffering that he does. And I remember he drank a whole 20-year-old Crystal Pepsi, and
that's actually what sprang to mind when you mentioned his name. Yes,
he projectile vomited after he had.
It was horrifying, and he ends up in the hospital sometimes. This is not good. Please don't do this to yourself.
Well, that's where you're smart, though. Like you'll make the call. Like, all right, this is like a bread-based thing. It probably won't kill me. I'll take a nibble of it. But this smells like death. I'm not going a mile near it. He'll just take whatever the hell he gets and just suffer through it.
I mean, very small amounts is the key. You really don't want food, or you don't want to end up in the hospital. People only need to know what the taste is. They don't need to necessarily see you being very ill and then carted away in an ambulance. You know.
Well, I guess they enjoy watching people suffer, but yeah, at least I wouldn't do it. I give you credit for what you do, because I skeeve everything, so there'd be no way I could even, like, if I had to, I would probably be hurling before you even opened the bottle of the olives up before I even saw them.
Oh. Yeah, you want one of the really smelly ones, like the surstrumming or something, the fermented herring, I think it is, which is I always said I wouldn't do it on the channel because the smell is so intense and horrifying that if you like drop a bit of the juice or the oil, whatever it is, on the floor, that's it. You've got to rip the floorboard up. It just won't fade.
I watched like 8 billion surströmming videos because it's one of those things that like, how the fuck do people even eat that? And I watched I forgot, I think it's a Swedish dish. I'm not even sure where, but I saw someone from the native country, Swedish. And it's like, you have to be outside. You got to like quarantine yourself and you have to put it on a cracker with 6,000 other things. And you put like a layer of it on there that why is it even worthwhile? But then it's delicious that way. I'm like,
it is quite nice though. I genuinely did quite enjoy it when we did that. Yeah.
Did you really?
The opening of it. Yeah. It was fine. Yeah. But you do have to do it like that. You don't just like pull a bit out and eat it because that's going to be bad times. It tastes nowhere near as bad as it smells, but to be honest, it smells so ludicrously bad that I don't think anything possibly could. I still have a memory of us opening that. We opened it in the garden, and the neighbour's cat was walking through the garden, looked at us as we opened it, and just shot away, and we didn't see it for about 2 weeks.
Oh God! If a cat can't take it, then who the hell can?
Exactly. Yes. If a cat doesn't want the fish, you know it's bad.
Animals will literally eat their own shit if they don't want the fish. That's a problem. But that just makes you think, like, who sat down? I mean, I guess you could say that about any food, but who, like, hundreds of years ago said, "Wow, this fish is rotting and absolutely disgusting. We should actually try it."
The stench is so bad it's destroyed the house. Well, we'd better eat it, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if depending on the time where food was more of a scarcity, and it's like, all right, we got to get any nutrition we could get. But how, like, I don't know how you could stomach sitting through that and eating it. It just always makes me think, like, where the hell do foods start from?
And it has to be fermented in quite a specific way, I think. So there's been sort of a weird build up to it. Maybe they started with it very slightly rotten and slowly over the years built it up into this horrifying miasma of bacteria.
I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about cheese too. I mean, who the hell said, hey, let's have milk sit around and rot and maybe it'll actually taste good and eat it?
Who first milked a cow? And what did they think they were doing? They just don't know back to it.
It's so true. Like, it's just amazing how we have all these different foods and things like that, and where they started from. Like, who sat there and said, I'm going to squeeze a cow's udder, or I guess maybe a nipple, and this stuff is coming out. I should try and taste it, and maybe hopefully it won't kill me.
I mean, who thought that milk from another animal would be fine? But yeah, obviously it is. I think we've worked that one out by now, but crikey. Yeah, there's a start point to all these things, but a long time ago.
And you used to do a lot of, well, first off, you still do the couch, which I love, because that's one of the things that's amazing to me is that people, I'm guilty of this, where I flip-flop my format every 5 minutes, but you still kind of have, to a degree, the same production value. And it kind of proves that if the personality works, that's what brings people to you. What made you use the couch? I know that sounds like a stupid
ongoing visual continuity. No, the couch was used entirely by accident at first. So the first video I did of that style of something on the sofa was the original Pop Station video many moons ago.
God, I watched that. I remember that thing.
All so fuzzy and the audio's terrible. But hey, that was YouTube back then. So it was before YouTube. I think I recorded that, if I remember. It was to do with a forum for an old video games journalist we used to hang around on and chat, that kind of stuff. And somebody spotted on eBay this Pop Station, this ridiculous rip-off of the Sony PSP, which was the new big thing at the time. And I thought it was like £5. I thought, I've got to just get this. And then I got it and thought, I need to show people this. I'm just going to, improvise a sort of very short 5-minute video showing it off, and just uploaded it to put wmvfile.net or something ridiculous, thinking that only the people on this forum would see it, like about 15 people or something. But one of them forwarded the link to Beta, which is a big creative newsletter. It goes out on the Friday, a sort of UK-based thing. And it went out and like 70,000 people downloaded it or something, which at the time was...
Holy crap.
Absolutely unbelievable. So, my God. And of course I hadn't said what my name was or my website or branded it in any way, because I didn't think anyone would see it. So immediately overnight everybody was claiming they'd made it and re-uploading it everywhere. I was like, God, well, I'd better do a second one now, if only to prove I did the first.
Yeah, seriously.
So I, got a fake Nintendo DS that I found at the local market, did a second video, uploaded that, still forgot to put my website at the end. I still can't believe that to this day, but did actually appear in camera first, explain who I was. And that did just as well, views-wise. And I thought, well, people will be sick by like the third one. So I did a third one of something I bought in a discount shop and uploaded that, and it was still popular. But this time I'd I'd uploaded everything to Google Video, because I always back the winner. That, of course, disappeared instantly. And then switched over to YouTube, and it just kept growing from there, really. People never got sick of it for some reason.
I think it's because it's amazing the blatant rip-off shit that's out there. And not only is it... If it was a blatant rip-off in good, I could understand. It's just how terrible it is on top of it, too. And I think that's what fascinates. That's why I used to watch it. Like, I can't believe they would actually sell this thing and try to justify it because it looks like the shape of another console. No one else... Now that happens all the time, but no one else was doing that really except you. And that's why I think it brought so many people to your channel, and that's what made it so interesting. And plus, your take on it was interesting, too.
That's true. I suppose nobody else really was doing it. And I suppose YouTube was so new, wasn't it, that nobody had really thought to do a lot of things. It had such small traffic in the early days. And obviously that very quickly ramped up because, well, it's such an easy site to get into and watch, isn't it? My God, I do miss those old knockoff consoles, but everything these days is either a Fama clone of some type or Android-based, and they're all the same. I miss the weird little games they had.
Well, now you also have companies like Analog who make the amazing clone consoles. I love them. I have minus the it's too rich for my blood. They have that final. They're making the NT, the Nintendo again, and it's gorgeous, but it's $500. Yeah, it's $500. I'm just like, I got the email and I was like full boner, and I'm like, and I looked at it and it was like, oh, only for $500. I'm like, you're going to use the thing once and it's just going to sit under your TV. Don't do it.
Yeah, I've got to get their handheld when it comes out.
Yes, me too.
Or whatever. Yeah. If they're going to do an adapter for Neo Geo Pocket Color, I would be very happy. But then, having said that, it won't have the little clicky joystick thing on it, so swings and roundabouts.
I see why, though, you kind of got out of doing those clone cons, because there's so many. Not only is there so many bad ones now, there's so many good ones. It's kind of become flooded, and that I see why you changed away from that.
So, yeah, a lot of them are actually competent these days. There's no fun in that. I've got a few interesting things that have like bespoke Chinese games they've had written for it that are very short and simple, but they're kind of interesting, but equally they're kind of competent as well. So it's not as much fun as the old days of fighters ripping their arms off and firing at each other and chicken fights and nonsense like that.
Well, since At Games, Sega booted them. I really don't like the Sega's new clone console is phenomenal. Their little the Sega Genesis Mini is phenomenal.
But that's a nice one.
Did you try the At Games one before that? When I actually had a cartridge slot on there?
Oh my God, yes. I've got about 3 or 4 of the handheld ones. I've used a cartridge one somebody else had. You turn it on and the sound is just so far off. So far off.
I did a review on the last one that Sega worked with them on, and they finally kind of sort of got the sound right, but they screwed up everything else on it. And I feel like it had frame skip. Why does a Sega Genesis, and that was at the time 2018, have frame skip? Like,
the charger for your phone is probably powerful enough to run games these days.
I had the shittiest Android phone ever. I had a Samsung Intercept. It could barely turn on, but it could emulate Sega Genesis games perfectly, and that came out in 2010. So, what I'm getting at, though, is my point being is that I get why now it's a different, because back then it was so much, the shit was such shit from those clone consoles. It was fun to see how terrible it was, and now it's like everyone's doing, even bad companies are doing a decent job.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Yep, just with the basic Android hardware, be it or something simple, you can just get these systems on a chip for almost no money whatsoever. Whereas if you look back at something, a knockoff console made in like the early 90s, a knockoff of a Game Boy or something, it's going to have an LCD screen, It's going to have buttons that don't work properly. It's going to look like a Game Boy that's been jumped on, and the game is going to make no sense whatsoever. But these days, yeah, you can actually have fun with them. What's the point of that?
Yeah. What's the fun of making fun of them if they're not terrible?
Exactly.
You actually did, and I forgot about this. You did. There was like a UK version of the Game Boy. It had a what the hell was that? I'm just thinking of it now. It just popped in my brain. It was really terrible. It had a dot matrix display, but it was really bad.
Oh, I've got a few of those. That would probably be the Quick Shot Supervision.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yep, originally the Watara Supervision, but yeah, sold by Quick Shot in the UK. Yeah, basically, it's like a Game Boy. The screen is bigger on most models. Very few games. The games are very small and pretty awful. And you thought the screen was bad on the original Game Boy. Imagine that dialed up to 10. Yeah, just blurry. You can't quite make anything out holding it in. The reason British people remember that is there was a TV show called Bad Influence, which is one of only really I know it. Two sort of video game shows we had, and due to it being broadcast on the BBC, which have these laws about not just showing all things from one company, you have to show the competition as well. It's like, oh well, you're showing the Game Boy a lot, you must show this Quick Shot Supervision. And the presenter Violet Berlin told me, well, I told them nobody's got this thing. It's really hard to buy, and it's rubbish. I'm like, no, there must be balance. So every other week there was like, and what's the latest thing on the Quick Shot? Oh, they've released one game, and it's a breakout clone that doesn't work. Brilliant. We'll all be rushing off and buying that next.
That's weird. So you have a law. Is that law still in the UK now, where they have to have a competitive product?
It wasn't a law or anything. It was just the BBC. I think they were just internal. To be honest, their rules they'd made up themselves, really. I mean, I can understand not wanting to promote, because as they're a government-backed broadcaster, you don't want to sort of promote one company over another, but have to be sensible about it as well, because the Game Boy had no competition in a direct sense. You know, you had your Lynx and your Game Gear, but they did not run off batteries for very long. And, I mean, the Quick Shot did run off batteries for very long. You just wished it didn't, really.
Yeah, like how many games were for that thing? I saw the few of them that you had on the.
That's a really good question. I want to know. I'm going to look that up.
Because I mean, it actually didn't look like a bad system, but then you started playing the games and it was terrible.
That's exactly it. I mean, there's been a lot worse out there. It is a console. It does have its own games, but yeah. It looks like there's about 66 games.
Holy crap. I thought there would only be like a handful of them, and it faded out. Yeah.
Some Chinese only. A lot of them are, how should we put it politely, very similar to other games, shall we say, that's been released for it.
Yeah, they were trying to make knockoffs that were terrible knockoffs, so they weren't even good knockoffs.
Exactly. Yep. So you've got a knockoff of a knockoff, and yeah, joy did not ensue for the kids who got one for Christmas because it was slightly cheaper than a Game Boy.
It's pretty amazing how Nintendo, with limited technology compared to their competitors, because I actually had a Lynx too, because I was a spoiled shit. I actually had a Turbo Express. I actually got one. You could actually still
yes, I can see it there. Yes, the Turbo Express are amazing. I need to get mine recapped. Actually, the sound has gone on mine, but amazing consoles.
Yeah, that was an issue with them with the caps. That was a big issue. A lot of times, if you look for them on eBay, they'll tell you if they're recapped or not.
Yeah, very important if you're buying one. I had mine capped so the screen is spot on, then the sound went. So why didn't I get both the caps done at once? I don't know.
Oh, wow. So you had a double. Usually it's the sound that goes and not the screen. I actually I purposely got the original screen because I wanted to see the original experience. I could have gotten it with, they have the nice new LCD in there, but...
Oh, yes. No, I don't have one of those because, as you say, it's not the original experience, is it? You may as well just be emulating on something.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I want to see what I was playing when I was 10 back in 1991. I don't want to. If I have a clean screen, I'll just get an emulator for my phone or like a tablet. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Knock it up on your laptop, whatever. The only exception, I have one of the McWill mod Game Gears, but that's because I've never managed to have a Game Gear where the screen lasted for more than about 4 months. So it was either that or just never play the game.
And the Game Gear screen was so bad. It was a passive. Even back when they were new, that's why I never wanted one. It's funny, I had a Lynx. The Lynx wasn't that much better, but a little bit. But if you, even when I was a kid, I remember oh, your Game Boy sucks. I have a Game Gear, and I would but I feel like I have cataracts playing this. If you move, everything's blurry. Everything just turns. Okay, great, it's in color, but unless you playing like what the hell was their Tetris game? I can't think of it right now. It was like a Tetris columns. Like, what the hell are you going to play on it? You know?
Yeah.
And the battery life was shit. I think the battery life was worse on that, and I'm going by faded memory, than it was on the Turbo Express.
Yeah, you're right. I think the Game Gear was worse than the Lynx even. I mean, the Lynx was a battery eater by any stretch, but I think the Game Gear was the lowest battery life of all those consoles, if I remember correctly. I remember a friend showing me one. They had the Sonic the Hedgehog game, the first one. It's like, oh my God, this looks amazing. Run to the right, everything blurs out. How do you even play it?
Yeah, that's the thing. Platformers. I remember a friend of mine. God, you're wiping the cobwebs off my brain right now. This guy named Kyle. I was at a sleepover at his house as a kid, and I remember playing Sonic on there. Like, oh, Sonic on a portable. That's awesome. Oh, wow, I'm moving. I can't see a goddamn thing. So I never want to play. That's what made me not want it. That's what made me not want it.
That exactly the same thing happened to me. It's why I had a Lynx and a Game Boy. Yeah, although the Lynx great system, but not that many great games for it, sadly.
Yeah, it's such a shame too, because the Lynx, I had one of those as a kid too, and it was really good. It was a really powerful system for its time. It did 3D. It did.
Had really powerful sprite scaling chips and stuff. I mean, there's some great games for it, but so few were released as compared to any of the other handhelds that, percentage-wise, you're just not going to get as many great games as the others, I can totally understand people preferring the Game Gear back in the day, even with the screen, just because, I can play Shinobi, I can play Sonic, I can play whatever, whereas we're sort of, Scrapyard Dog is all right. It's about the best we had.
They had a game called Toki that was pretty good for the Lynx.
It's an excellent arcade conversion, one of the best versions.
Yeah, and they had it was like a racing game. It was literally 3D, and Stun Runner, and it's so funny because as a kid I didn't appreciate that, but thinking back, I watch videos on it now, and I'm like, holy crap! I can't believe that system was friggin' doing that back in the early '90s.
It's amazing. The Lynx version of Stun Runner is absolutely amazing, and this was the time when even the powerful home computers at the time, like the Commodore Amiga, Atari ST, and that. Oh, the Stun Runner versions are bad, properly bad. The 8-bit computer's terrible. It didn't really work properly on any of the consoles, except the Lynx, which is amazing. I mean, I'm not saying it's like the greatest game ever, because, the arcade game's not fantastic, but it's still pretty good. But from a technical standpoint, it's unbelievable what they did with that game, really is.
The thing about the Lynx, though, is that there was not it made the Game Gear, if I remember, you actually may have your hands on both of them, it made the Game Gear seem small. Even the refined Lynx made the Game Gear, like they had the different Lynx, I forgot what they improved on it, but that's the one that I had, and it was a huge system.
The thing about it is, it's bigger, absolutely, in the sort of standard form factor, but the depth, you don't realize how deep it is until you hold one. It's like you've got a house brick with a screen on it. It's sort of playing away. It's
thick, yeah. It's a thick.
I had a Lynx 1 first, and the Lynx, goodness, it's like two house bricks glued together. It's a massive thing.
Yeah, it was really wide. Like, it wasn't even just thick, it was a long system. Yeah.
Yeah. Very quickly did they change over to the Lynx 2, and you can understand why, because the others, I mean, the Game Boy is so portable. And you've got your Lynx, which is like 2.5 times the size, I feel like you're taking half your house with you.
Well, I guess that's how they got the powerful hardware in there, because of the fact that, you were basically it was a console, it was basically a home console with a screen on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Something like a Nomad or similar.
And what was interesting about the Game Gear is that was just basically a Sega Master System with a slight resolution change on the screen. That's probably why the battery life sucked on it.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. It wasn't built to be handheld, was it? So, yeah, it got through your AA batteries quicker than setting them on fire.
Now, I have some other friends from the UK, and the NES wasn't that big over there, was it? Like it was in the States?
No, it really wasn't a thing. I mean, it existed, and you could kind of buy it, but from weird places like import shops and some chemists or something absolutely ridiculous like that, because Nintendo basically just went, nah, not going to release it. And you're now nah, going to bother. We'll give the license. I think it was to Mattel, produced the first few. And then after a while, they were like, oh, we should have got in on this. And then they sort of produced their own ones. But by that time, the big problem was you had your ZX Spectrum and your Commodore 64, Amstrad CPC, all these 8-bit microcomputers we all had, which were very cheap to buy. And the games came on tape. And the thing about a game on tape is you can copy it by putting it in your dad's twin-deck Ghetto Blaster thing and just recording onto a blank cassette.
No way, really?
Yep, so you got a lot of games for free, because if somebody bought a game, everybody else just copied it, because why not? The originals still work. Whereas Nintendo games, the cartridges were horrendously priced, because never properly released over here, not in any real capacity anyway. And as a result, you would buy these cartridges, which were like so much more expensive than the other games, and it's very hard to convince your parents to buy this sort of obscure box with incredibly expensive games that you can't copy off people, or the same thing everybody else has got, where you can get a load of games for the price of a blank C60.
And you guys on top of it never had the crash like we had in the States. Like, our video game market imploded, and no one realizes that wasn't a worldwide thing. Everyone thinks it was a worldwide thing. It's not.
No, you're absolutely spot on there. A lot of younger British people think we all had NESs and Crash was a thing, and that, I think, just because they watch so much YouTube, and YouTube is very sort of American-centric on that kind of stuff. But yeah, just 8-bit micros just kept going as they were, really, and moved into the 16-bit Atari ST and Amiga. Then the Game Boy was massive over here, absolutely massive.
And
that's then by the time... Sorry, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's interesting. So the NES didn't make a splash over there, but the Game Boy was huge.
Oh, yeah, the Game Boy was absolutely huge. Yeah, huge advertising campaigns. Yeah, massive success. And then by the time we'd gone into sort of Super Nintendo and Mega Drive, that kind of stuff, the consoles had absolutely taken over games. Just due to the ease of it, really, and the fact the games were a lot better, let's be honest.
Yeah, the systems, like the Amstrad, and they seemed very limited. Like, I forgot, was it the ZX Spectrum that were like color palettes, like everything had to be a certain color?
Absolutely, yep. The entire screen, you can draw your pixels wherever you want, black and white, like literally black and white. Then color is applied afterwards in kind of a layer and in blocks. I hate blocks, I can't remember. But each block can only be 2 different colors. So when people did make colourful games that looked good on the Spectrum, they were basically geniuses and should have immediately been snapped up by NASA, because it's one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah, because most of the games I see, as an American, it's fascinating because I never had a ZX or ZX Spectrum. And to see how they're like, why do they look so, and someone finally explained to me how the color palettes work. I'm like, oh, because the game, like, why is like everything in a certain spot red? Why is everything in a certain spot blue?
Yeah, that's exactly
it. It looks like they gave a 5-year-old crayons and just said rub all over the screen.
It's one of those things where you'd see occasionally screenshots of NES games and wow, my God, this they're like living in the future in America with these games. They look, spot on. Everything's moving smoothly. You can see that in my photo, but yeah. I mean, the Commodore 64 can do much better color-wise, but generally lower resolution. And the Amstrad, again, lower resolution, but very good color palette. But nobody ever really put the effort into Amstrad games as they should have done. A lot of them were just weak conversions of the Spectrum ones. So you'd buy your Amstrad computer, which could have like amazing colors, and you'd load the game up and it's monochrome because it's a Spectrum conversion. They couldn't be bothered to actually change up properly. Such a shame for the people who did that.
So was the Amiga big over there too?
Yes, huge, absolutely huge. Yeah, Atari ST was quite big as well. Those were pretty much the only 16 bits. The Acorn Archimedes existed, but was very expensive, and generally you wouldn't see one outside a school. Schools are quite keen on the Acorns. But yeah, that was absolutely it. That was my big sort of computer thing for years. I had an Atari ST then. When that started to die off, moved on to an Amiga. And then, yeah, that started to die off basically. And but by that time, you could actually afford to buy an IBM PC, which was powerful enough to run decent games. Basically, as soon as you saw Doom, that killed them. That really did.
Well, it's so funny you say that though, because back in like the mid to late '80s, I would always get like my dad would get me a PC game, and they would show like CGA, which looked like barf, literally. Because you could only have like those 4 friggin' pastel colors.
Yes, sort of bright cyan and magenta.
It looked like, it just looked like the Easter Bunny took a shit on the screen. And then you would have EGA, which looked okay. But then you would have Amiga, and Amiga, it was like, oh my God, that looks like the arcade version of Double Dragon or Castlevania or whatever the case may be. But it was interesting. All of a sudden, like in the early, like once Doom came, Doom I feel is like what was the death knell almost for Amiga. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I feel like.
No, you are absolutely right, because of the way the Amiga drew graphics basically meant it was incredibly processor intensive for it to do any sort of scaling. Whereas due to the way the PC grew, if I can say it properly, due to the way the PC drew graphics, it could, they had more powerful processors anyway, but with less sort of effort, get all this smooth scrolling stuff. So the last couple of years of the Amiga's life, so many of the games are just attempts at Doom clones.
Yes.
They really are. Please buy our game. Don't run over to PC land yet. But some of them are all right. By the time you'd got an accelerated Amiga 1200, you could actually kind of run Doom. There wasn't a version of Doom, but technically you could have run it, But yeah, that was absolutely the death knell. It was such a game changer, because it's such a great game, obviously, but also there's just something about a first-person shooter running at a high frame rate, which, was revolutionary at the time.
Well, that's why you're seeing now, and it's so funny because I wasn't on board with this, but after experiencing with a 144 hertz monitor, you can't go back. Like,
what's up?
And Siri just went off, but.
Go ahead.
It's ordered you 144 hertz monitor.
It's ordering like 5 of them off of Amazon right now. Oh, Siri, go away. Hold on 1 second. I'm leaving that in the podcast. It's always entertaining when Siri comes on. But it's like once you go to 144 hertz, it's just the feeling like it's such a direct response from the mouse to, or even the gamepad to the screen. It is pretty incredible. And it's funny, I used to not care, but then once you go to that, it's like doing even 60 frames per second now feels like 30 once you go to those high refresh rates.
Do you know, I've not properly played on a 144 hertz monitor because I'm trying to avoid, because I know as soon as I do, I'll want one. And I kind of need the 4K resolution for video editing. So, I presume 4K 144 monitors exist. They're probably so expensive you could buy a house instead or something.
Well, it's not even that. It's just the GPU processing power that you'll need to run the game at a 4K.
This is entirely true. Yes, my God. Imagine 4K. Oh my God.
You're not even doing that. You're not even doing that with a 2080 Ti unless you're doing like mid to low settings. Yeah, so that's even the thing. I know they have 4K 120. They may have higher than that. I'm not sure, but you're not doing it.
That's horrendous. We're years off that, really, aren't we? My God.
So what do you think?
If you had a GPU that powerful, you'd probably just be using it to mine Bitcoin, to be honest.
And lighting it. That's why there's a billion cheap GPUs on eBay right now, because they're the leftover corpses of the whole mining craze.
They're now selling them off.
Yeah, but you kind of don't want them because they're like limping to their graves.
Oh, of course, because they've been on permanently at absolute maximum for like months and years on end. Yes,
and you know that people who are mining with those, they're not taking care. They're not blowing the dust out. So I actually got an RX 480, and I'm like, oh wow, that's cheap. It was like $80, and I get it, and it smelled like cigarettes and death. So it was I took it out and I showed it to my dad. I went to my parents' house and I took it out, and my dad went, "What the hell is that smell?" I'm like, "I think he ashed his cigars out on it. I'm not sure."
You've reminded me many years ago. A colleague of mine at the time bought a second-hand Dreamcast back when they were still relatively new, and it was entirely yellow. We were like, "Oh my god, have they left that in a window or something?" No, it was nicotine, and the stench from it was unbelievable. And when he's turned it on in the office to make sure it worked, and the stench, it was just like pouring out this tobacco smell from the back of it.
Oh, from the fan. Yeah, yeah.
It was awful. And the fan was all clogged up with like fibrous, I don't know, some sort of tobacco side effect. Oh, it was, I've forgotten that. The smell from it was unbelievable. I think he got it cleaned up in the end, but yeah.
He probably had to rebuild the whole system. So I'm sure all the belts for like the drive, what a GD-ROM drive, I forgot that's what they called it, and all that was probably all crispy and toasted. And
oh yeah, oh, that doesn't bear thinking about, does it? My God, they hadn't even been out that long, so this guy must have really changed the
people are so disgusting. Do you ever see the videos? There's a guy called Tektronics on YouTube where he opens up PlayStation 4s and there's colonies of roaches inside of them.
Oh yes, I have come across those. Yeah,
like what conditions? I mean, okay, if you're in an apartment building, I'll give you, you could be the cleanest person on the planet. You have a disgusting neighbor, then fine. But you know that's not true for every person. What do you have going on in your house that there's literally colonies of roaches living in your game consoles? Like, he opened it up. I'm going to, when I edit this later, I'm going to clap now just to show the footage. He opened it up. There was literally, let's say dozens of roaches, maybe hundreds, running around the PlayStation 4.
Oh my goodness! You know that's not good for airflow.
not good for airflow, and you'll probably catch Ebola from the console too. Yeah. It's so disgusting, man.
Have you ever worked in tech support?
Yes.
Have you ever worked directly with customers in tech support?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, a technical desk at PC World in the UK. What is your worst story of a dirty PC or keyboard or whatever?
Well, there's two, and I'll do the Cliff Notes version. There was one guy, I believe, that was a priest. That it was very obvious that he was probably masturbating in front of his laptop, and the keys were stuck down. I'm not kidding. I wish I was. I don't know why. I have a series called Retail Horror Stories. I don't know why I've ever told that. Then there was this guy who came in. I don't know what he did. He's like, "Oh, I have a warranty on this laptop," and he has like a box. It was closed. He opens it up. It was literally just a bunch of plastic pieces. Like, he must either someone smashed it. It wasn't. There was nothing that was even recognizable. I'm like, dude, okay, we talk about something being broken. We're meaning like you drop it and the screen cracks. Like, and he was getting pissed off, and he was obviously, I don't know, hired. You could smell something on him. And I'm like, this is not even a product. You could have went on the side of the road and just picked up a bunch of random pieces of plastic. We can't cover this. Yeah, I could do the same thing right now and come in with a box. But yeah, there was one time I went to someone's, because I used to work. I'm gonna guilt myself here, but the company's not even up. I used to steal work from Circuit City. Like, if a customer came and wanted to get their computer fixed, me and my dad had like a side business to be like, yeah, we'll fix it cheaper. And I made a killing that way. And they didn't by the time they didn't catch on until I was already putting my 2 weeks in there to go work for IBM. So this guy, he was a nice guy. He was a DJ, but for some reason on the computers in his house, his wife, who wasn't really an attractive woman, was like wearing see-through lingerie as the wallpaper on all of the.
Oh.
Yeah. Ashens, you just said. What were you going to say? I'm sorry.
My God, I certainly can't beat the priest one. That's awful. The worst we got was, I think, a keyboard with a colony of ants in it. But as for people bringing in rude things, that. We had one gentleman, shall we say, he was anything but a gentleman, bring in his PC. As you would, they did this thing called a health check, where once a year you'd bring a PC in and we'd just basically virus check and give it back to you. It was a total waste of time. But brought it in, handed it over. We plug it in, and indeed, all the background of the desktop background and the screensaver and everything are pictures of his attractive Asian wife, who's about half his age, in various poses and things. Oh, really, guy? You're not impressing anybody with this. You just come across as a right sort of dirty old man. And then he sent her in to pick it up. That was the worst thing.
I don't understand. Like, is it because people don't have shame or they just forget? Like, that's the $1 million question.
I think this was done on purpose to show off this one. I really do, especially with the way you center in at the end. But,
you reminded... What were we going to say? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you go for it. Your turn.
You reminded me of one more story. There was another guy at Circuit City who came in. This is where Windows Vista just came out. You know, remember how Windows Vista, in the top corner, you had pictures that it would just scroll through the pictures that you had on your computer? Mm-hmm. So he was a nice guy normally talking to me. And, you see the generic pictures they had, generic picture they had. Then all of a sudden, there's pictures of him holding his penis. Just completely naked. Completely naked, and he in different poses, and I'm sitting there, and he's like asking me questions about Vista, and he's casually just saying this, and he had, I don't know if he was trying to ignore it because he was embarrassed or he just didn't care. I'm like, oh, there's his balls and penis right now. I don't really want to see this, and he's asking me about drivers while I'm sitting there watching like a softcore porn from him. That's the kind of shit you dealt with, man. And if you
oh my god, that's an extreme one. Oh,
and that's happened a few other times too.
Sorry, Bandy.
No, finish. But there's no other specific stories, but that's happened a few times. But continue.
That's an amazing. Just this image of it trying to talk to him out of the corner of your eyes,
and they're just his ball. Yeah, his balls are up on the top of the screen.
Now that's a screensaver. God. Years and years ago, I bought off eBay an Oko One, which is like a handheld Windows XP machine that basically gets too hot and doesn't run properly, and the resolution isn't quite enough. It's awful. Bought it to review, and I never reviewed it. In fact, actually, up on the wall there behind me, because when I first got it, I turned it on, made sure it was working. Oh, brilliant! Connecting to Dropbox, downloading. Oh, this will take ages. 20 minutes later, I realized, hang on. If it's connected to Dropbox, I've literally just got it out of the box. I haven't connected it to or anything. So I was, oh God, run in, stop doing this. And it downloaded this guy's files who'd had it previously, and half of them seemed to looked like medical certificates or something, in that he was qualifying to be a doctor or something. Oh God, delete, it's none of my business. And the other half were, I think the technical term is coprophagia, but it was basically him eating shit.
No!
Yeah. And because I remember thinking, why are there so many pictures of him like eating a chocolate bar on this?
That's you just beat me. What are you talking about? That's worse than anything I just said.
Yeah, I totally forgot. That wasn't to do with tech support. But I put it back in the box and I've not looked at it since. And that was like 6 or 7 years. I really should try and get over that and get that out and review it. But that was. Yeah, I mean, if you've got Dropbox on your PC and you sell your PC, disconnect the account. Don't just delete the folder, because it will just repropagate as soon as you turn it back.
Well, what's scary too is if it was him eating the shit, his hands were probably on that keyboard too. Or even
I never thought. I don't know if they were him. So I don't know.
Well, but even on the flip side, if that's his fetish, that means that he couldn't have been that sanitary of a guy, so Lord knows what else he was doing while he was looking at the pictures. I mean...
I might rinse that under the tap.
I mean, if you're sitting there looking at pictures of people eating shit and that's what gets you off, I don't think you're really caring. I don't think you're really caring what you're getting on the keyboard of that laptop.
just give that a wipe down. Oh God. Yeah, it's, you've somehow made that even worse.
It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. And the thing is that, there's been other laptops I've got too that, one guy was a doctor, or he was a nurse practitioner, and nothing bad, but you could see that like all he did in his free time was go to porn sites.
Oh,
it's
lonely fella. Yes.
No, he was married. Oh, doesn't mean he's not lonely though. We could go into that complex term. But you really, when you work on that stuff, and too now from what you just said, you'd get to know people in ways that you don't want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff comes up that you wish you could unsee, but you never can.
No, you can't. How long did you do tech support stuff for?
About a full calendar year, I think. I just got so sick of it. Oh, it was just, well, just as well as I do exactly what it's like.
And people are not very understanding either. That's the other part.
Oh, are they not? Like, oh, yeah. So, oh, God. And if anything goes wrong, it's always your, even if they've brought in the wrong computer or whatsoever has happened. I remember doing the returns desk the day after Boxing Day, which is the first time it's open after Christmas. And actually, may have been on Boxing Day, I think, actually. Now, oh, that was awful. People coming in, you ruined our Christmas because little Billy's Bunny Rabbit game didn't work. Oh, you see, Billy's Bunny Rabbit game needed a graphics card with at least 2 megabytes of RAM and texture and lighting support, and you have a PlayStation 2. So Billy's Bunny Rabbit game wasn't ever going to work, was it? You know. Oh, but it's all your fault. They want everything returned, more money than they paid for it. Dear.
And it's what also boggles my mind too, working in there, is that how many people just treat their stuff like garbage.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand, okay, something happens, you drop it, it falls, but just the way that they would come in, there would be keycaps off on the laptops. There would be, you could see they pushed on, you know how like where you could tell someone pushes on the screen and it would be like a light spot where they push.
Yes.
Like, why do you need, it's not a touchscreen laptop. Why are you touching the screen? That's like my number one rule is if I see a fingerprint on a TV or a screen, it drives me insane. It drives me.
There was a whole group of us who would absolutely have agreed with that, yeah. And laptops at the time, especially, even the basic models were so expensive. Like, how could you just buy this and then just prod it and then eat over it and then, as you say, keycaps missing? Or the other classic from laptops, CD, DVD drive snapped off.
I never actually got that. I would always get that the hard drive was dead because people just would walk around with it, and that was when all the drives were mechanical, and so the head would end up slapping against the plate, and it would kill it.
Ah, yes. Yeah, we had a lot of dead hard drives from those things. Although, to be honest, some of the laptops we sold were so poor quality that I'm not surprised. But yeah, that was one of the worst ones, I think. It's not like they'd been using it as a drinks holder or something, and just the whole tray is missing. And I can't put my CDs in it. Well, of course you can't. You've removed the part that the CDs go in.
I had someone come in with a desktop computer who thought that the CD-ROM tray was a place where you put drinks in.
They literally thought it was a drinks hole.
Yes.
My God, we used to joke about that, but it happened.
Yes, it actually happened.
Wow.
Yes, that actually happened at Circuit City. That happened. All like that was it's dumb shit like that. Only happened once, but dumb shit like that. People would ask questions that were absolutely amazing. Like how could you, even if you know nothing about technology, how could you have that little common sense?
Do you? As that thing of some people, when presented with a computer, they don't understand it fundamentally, and all intelligence flies out of the window. All reasoning and comprehension, they just. I don't understand this. Now I will totally ruin it or just not understand the basics of it. Because as you say, there was a lot of very basic questions, shall we say, to be put.
And that's why, when you call for if it's something that's like you have to call tech support to find out something, they ask you questions like, did you press the power button on the computer? And like you get pissed off, like, yeah, but I'm thinking to myself, all right, I get it, because I know there are people out there who literally don't know that.
Yes, there's the old joke about have you turned it off, but that really does fix most things, and surprisingly the amount of people who don't try it.
Yeah, but I'm glad I got out of that though. Once I went, it was funny. One of the customers I quote unquote stole from Circuit City, it was this older couple, and the strangest thing was both of them, their stomachs were gurgling and farting. They were farting the entire time I was fixing their computer, and I'm like, I'm not kidding. I remember, and I'm just like, yeah, I can't. I'm making decent money right now, but I know it can't last forever. And I don't want someone farting basically in my face as I'm trying to fix their laptop. I remember there was an old couple. They were both sitting in chairs, and one stomach would gurgle, the other one would slip out a fart, and then vice versa.
A tag team system. Yes,
it was a tag team ass system, man. And their house stunk too. That was a thing, because I would do like Circuit City, like they did the calls a little bit, but not the way I would do them. So people would like that. Like I would be less money, and I would go out to their house. So there were their house stunk too. That was the other thing. Besides from their asses, you could just tell it was like they didn't know a vacuum was invented yet. So
oh yes, yeah. I never had to go out to people's houses. Thankfully, we had other people that did that, and they would come in the shop for supplies and stuff. And some of the stories they would tell, I'm glad I never got into that.
So YouTube now, kind of feel like we're going back. It's your full-time gig, or you're doing something outside of YouTube along with it? Or?
Yeah, YouTube is the vast majority. Certainly, the vast majority of what earns them. Put it that way. But I do some script work and bits and bobs on the side to keep my hand in other things in case YouTube catches fire one day, which could happen. Change the algorithm into flame or something. But yeah, it's the vast majority of what I do.
You've done some television stuff too, haven't you?
Never television and stuff. I've wrote some stuff for the BBC once, but it was all on stuff. Doing a lot of online comedy bits at the time. I co-wrote a series and presented for that, then co-wrote another series and presented that off the back of it. But they were very small-time stuff. It just appeared on the BBC's website, basically.
Oh, that's still awesome, though, man. What do you?
Yeah, it was good. It was good at the time. It was good at the time. We did some good stuff. I unfortunately don't have decent copies.
You broke up there for a second.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, annoyingly, I don't have decent copies of it. In fact, the second series we did is mostly lost. I'm trying to get somebody to sort of worm their way into the archives of the production company and see if they can find a sort of backup of it or something. Shame. It's always sad when things that you put my work into have just sort of gone forever.
Yeah, just like my Mr. Repsion podcast. I have an audio of it, but the video of it completely disappeared. But yeah, I don't know, man. My hard drive imploded. It was that was where I had the backup of it, and I can't find the original one. So yeah, good times.
That's frustrating.
So what frustrates you the most about YouTube now compared to older YouTube? Since you've been here longer than I think the only person who's on here as long as you is maybe AVGN. What frustrates you about the platform?
For me, almost entirely, it's the fact that they just won't necessarily inform people that you put a new video out. You know, they've got some sort of system for that, haven't they? It's, how many have you uploaded recently? Have they been watching a lot of your stuff recently? If not, we might not bother telling them you put something out. And, that's so frustrating. That
infuriates me. And I hate saying it because then people say, oh, rich people just don't want to watch your stuff. But I'm like, no, you're not understanding. It's literally someone who tells me in the comments, I'm subscribed to you. Why don't I see your videos in my feed? And what is with the bell? What?
Don't forget to like and subscribe and bell. Yes.
I mean, what is your take? I'll let you talk. What is your take on the bell? I think it's the most ridiculous thing ever, but I'll let you talk first.
Well, it's great because generally if I've subscribed to something and therefore want to know the updates, I then really want to have to press an entirely separate second thing for those updates to actually come through. Like, I don't understand it fundamentally. Like, if I didn't want updates, I wouldn't have subscribed to the channel. That's why I subscribe to the channel, so you tell me when something new comes. Why do I have to click a bell as well? And then still it doesn't often come through.
But then there's two layers of the bell. There's, okay, you click the bell. Okay, so I want notifications. Then you have to say, no, I really, really want notifications.
I didn't know that.
There's
the bell has a second stage.
Let me make. I'm just going to go to a random YouTube channel just to make sure I'm not going insane.
This is mad.
No, I'm not. Okay, I'm subscribed to you. What is just? Let me go to a trending page. Just all right. So here, boom. Yes, if I subscribe, there's bell. There's all or personalized or none.
What does personalized mean?
I don't know.
What?
Yeah, I knew I wasn't. Okay, I just had to make sure because I didn't want to give misinformation. Yes, you have to. So I guess if they're like, okay, the algorithm really thinks this video. So what the hell is the point of subscribing? Because if I want the bell at all, they may never send the videos out.
I mean, the whole point of subscribing, what it does is tell YouTube, please tell me when a new video comes out. So the existence of the bell is bizarre in itself. But then to have multiple systems of the bell. I would like a personalized bell, please. What does that mean? I don't know. Great. Thanks. That makes our job so much easier.
And what bothers me is that I see it. It's not just I see it like once in a while. I would say almost under every video that I do. I don't know if you notice the same thing. People say I don't see your videos in my feed. So you know how many people that is that you might be missing out on that maybe not be watching your stuff just because they don't know it exists.
And this is why the algorithm is so important, because if it isn't being pushed out to a general audience, they're not telling your subscribers. So who is it going to? You know, I meet people in the street sometimes and say, "Oh, I used to really like your videos. Yeah, Pete, you stopped doing them." No, so they're still going on at least once a week. Well, I haven't seen one for years, and they'll get their phone out and go, Well, I'm subscribed. Why isn't it in the feed?" I don't know, because YouTube knows best.
And what boggles my mind about that is, don't you think that YouTube, wouldn't it be in their best interest for more people to watch our videos? Because they get they get a cut of our revenue too. So I don't understand it unless it's in their interest to push other channels that will be more advertiser friendly.
This is exactly it. It's all about keeping eyes on the platform. So they want somebody to watch something which will last as long as possible, and then watch something else afterwards, and just to keep them on on the site so that they can serve them as many ads as. Yeah, and it seems to be working for them, so they're not going to change it probably.
But the delicious irony is that, what do you think of what happened with Kappa?
Oh, I had a real bad time with Kappa. A real bad time.
Did you really?
Yes. It cuts a very long story short. Obviously, a lot of my channel is sort of, here's a bad toy and all this kind of stuff. And I was basically told that what you're going to have to do is anything that contains toys or that a child might like potentially, even if it's clearly not aimed at them, you have to mark them all as for kids and lose all your monetization.
No.
This isn't good going forward. No. Then I heard from somebody else in the same position as other person, the complete opposite. No, for God's sake, don't mark anything as child friendly because your channel's clearly adult. Which, what do I do? Which, ended up having to get a sort of third external party in to kind of come up with an answer, and eventually worked out that, I shouldn't be marking anything as for kids due to the nature of the channel.
So what was now you said you had a really bad time with it. Did you get affected by it, or was it just that?
Fortunately not. It was more a sort of the emotional panic thing of, I spent a month thinking I'm now going to have to go through, turn off monetization to a load of videos, and now in the future, I can't do old toys and stuff. I love doing old toys. It really sort of ramps down what you can do in the future with the channel. It's a massive problem. And then ultimately, when it came through to the end of it, it's fine. And actually makes no difference whatsoever.
Yeah, the same thing with me. I didn't stress over it because I knew the stuff I talked about but man, that must have freaked you out. I feel terrible.
That was not a good month, put it that. But it had the right outcome, so I'm not going to complain too much. But it's just astonishing that it can be a thing that YouTube can ignore a law for so many years, get fined as a result, but then somehow the onus is on the creators and not them, because we're not collecting metadata from under 13s. We don't have access to it even. So why is it us who is legally liable for it? Most bizarre thing.
And what's even more amazing, let's take that, not only were they ignoring the laws and then they put the responsibility on us, is that until COPPA put the SMAT and FTC put the SMAT, they wanted more of that kind of content on the website because it was more advertiser friendly. So
yes. They're absolutely right. Yeah, they were certainly pushing in that. Well, no question of it.
So think about it. All these people that went to YouTube to start these child-friendly channels, so they thought that was the gold rush. Imagine you started to get off the ground, and then all of a sudden, remember that whole thing we were really trying to promote? Yeah, no, you're done. You quit your 9 to 5, and now you were paying your mortgage with YouTube. That sucks.
Yeah, that thing we were bigging up and pushing and promoting and all that. Well, actually, no, just forget it. Just forget it. You can keep doing it, but you won't get any money. Anyway, enjoy.
It's just interesting to me too, is that on the flip side, with how volatile this website has been, it's been like the most stable form of income for me. I don't know about you, but it's.
Yeah, I've very rarely done freelance stuff in the past. I always had sort of a standard, salaried job. So I'm used, or I was many years ago, used to something sort of more stable. But Yeah, I've never. My the income's been all right. I mean, it's not sort of veered up or anything, but I think because my content is so sort of diverse and so weird, it never quite. Whilst it never quite shoots up in the air like some of the Let's Play channels did years ago and all that sort of stuff, but equally it never gets totally destroyed. So I've managed to sort of carve a niche and live there.
And that's smart too, because you're giving advice that I kind of give as well, is that make your channel be where it could be, maybe not about everything, but like look at like the Call of Duty community, how that was so big in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, and who minus maybe a couple people, most of them have imploded now. And I think that's what's made you so successful, is that you could kind of your channel's pliable to a degree. You know, you're not.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh, because the problem is if you're doing something like when they first changed the algorithm to promote watch time more than sheer views, when they killed off the animators, if you remember that.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it was, the Let's Plays, we can just, we'll play our video game and we'll upload two-hour videos a day, and the money's rolling in and all that. But now all you do is play that one game, and then, as you say, things are going to change. And when that game isn't so popular now, you may not be able to move it into another one. You need to have a bit of diverse stuff at the start. Also, of course, it'll drive you mad if you're only doing one thing over and over. You're not going to be able to keep interested in it properly. It's best to have maybe one or two video threads that, while they're not as popular as the others, don't just can them off, because A, they might be more popular in the future, but B, they may be what keeps your interest and keeps you happy and making the stuff. Because if you're bored with what you're producing, the audience will spot that a mile off. It comes through in everything.
So true. They could smell it a mile away. They could smell when your disinterest is there, even if no matter how, you could be an Academy Award winning actor and they could still see through it. You know?
Yep, absolutely. You've got that layer of, I don't know what you'd call it. A sort of weird personal sort of connection that you don't have necessarily with other types of media. And whilst it is very slight, it's enough for the audience to smell when something's wrong.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I think you've been so successful too, is that people could tell, no matter, you can, whether it be you're reviewing a smartphone or rotten food from 200 years ago, they could tell that you're definitely connected with what you're doing and you're actually interested in it and you enjoy it, so.
Yeah, I mean, it does cost you money because I won't do something I'm not interested in, but equally, I can still do it. And it's never driven me mad or made me want to delete the channel and go off and be a fisherman or something.
Yeah, me either. People tell me I should go work at the post office. I don't think so. So
no, man, no, that doesn't sound fun.
No, especially nowadays too. So, all right, my friend, it's been awesome having you on the show. Tell them, are you doing anything interesting in the future you want to talk about, or?
Yes, our second feature film, Ashens and the Polius Hive, will be coming out in a couple of months, probably. Watch how much I cross my fingers and touch wood. Movies. But when that's out, give it a look. Buy it on iTunes or Google Play or your preferred vendor of digital stuff, or buy it on disc. Look, please just buy and watch it. It'll be fun.
All right. Awesome. I'll have a link to Ashens' YouTube channel below in the description. Guys, this was episode 8 of the Exposed podcast. And Ashens, thank you so much for coming on.
Not at all. Thanks for inviting me.
Not a problem.
Expose.